So hello everybody, welcome to this week's chat. I'm in the rectory kitchen. Why? I thought because it's the feast of Saint Martha today, and she's mentioned a few times in the Gospels, but the one that most of us remember is when she's filled with resentment because she's stuck in the kitchen. Jesus is visiting, and her sister Mary is just sitting by Jesus and listening to Jesus. And Martha's stuck with all the work, and she's like, kind of just sort of boils over at one point and says, Jesus, tell Mary to help me. And Jesus, she might have thought Jesus would appreciate all her hard work, but he says, one thing is necessary, and your sister here has chosen the better part. So kind of rebukes Martha. So anyway, in honor of all the people that work hard in the kitchen and struggle with resentment in their lives, I thought I'd just be in my kitchen. Hope later to got some beets at the farmer's market. I left them in the plastic bag, so the greens I'm afraid I won't be able to eat because they're wilted and moldy, but the beets themselves are still firm. Got them to roast some eggplant. That'll be awesome tonight. Got some of Beth Cerny's marinara sauce in the refrigerator from a while ago. I thought it out. Anyway, so that's a few things going on with the day. It's St. Martha Day. I'm in the kitchen. Summerfest, speaking of food, Parish news. Tell me something I need to know, you might ask. We're not having the big Summerfest with the kids' games and the band and all that, but there are some things that will happen. As you know, our raffle's going, so thanks for any support of that you've been able to offer. But also, we're going to have the annual outdoor Mass, God willing, the weather willing, on the second Saturday of August. So it'll be August 8th, not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday. If it's raining or not so good that night, we'll do it on the 15th. But regardless of the weather, on the 9th, we're going to have a takeout dinner. If you've looked at the bulletin or seen our website, you've seen some snappy ads for it, but it'll be really, really good. I'll be by takeout. So what you do is you do your order in advance. Though I think they're saying, they can certainly cope with some walk-up orders that aren't in advance. But if you can, it would help us to order in advance. Single meal, $9. 3 for $27. 5 for $40. And you can go on the website and you can register and pay later, or you can go on the website and pay right off the website. That's what I did. Or you can just kind of call Ann if you don't have internet access. But you're watching this, so you do. You can still just call Ann and let her know. Right now we have 70 meals ordered, so that's great. And Beth and her volunteers are hoping to are making enough for 270. So there's plenty of room. So what's it going to be? Pulled pork sandwiches, love them. The pièce de la résistance is the sweet corn from Jim Olwelling's family. Jim Olwelling's family in Minnesota. It's a Summerfest staple, and it's really the best corn I've ever had. So that'll be part of it. Coleslaw, beans. I don't have the whole list here. PCCW is making bars and cookies that'll be prepackaged. And so what you do is you'll have your car and you'll drive up to the back of school, and that back door by the cafeteria. Confirmation students will meet you, take your name, go get your order, bring it to your car, and off you go. You're welcome to stay and eat on the lawn, keeping the social distancing and all. But otherwise, you just drive on home and eat it. So that'll be hopefully a fun thing for people. Could use some corn shuckers, I understand, if you want to volunteer some time toward that. That'd be on Sunday morning, the 9th. And the lunch is on Sunday, the 9th. Serving from 11 till 2. I think I got it all in there. So other things with the kitchen. I showed you my eggplant already. This is another fun thing. These are some of my favorite things. I got a whole shelf of them up there. I got 5 of them. This is a pitcher. It's like it has liquid in it. I just put water in it tonight. But so there's a story that goes with it. You see it in like an Italian gift shops. It's an Italian thing. And apparently there was, how they all had their little territories and they would get in wars with other territories. And so this one territory they were worried they were going to get attacked by their neighbors, but they didn't know when, And one morning, everyone was awakened by the rooster started crowing. And the general and one of the military leaders got up and looked out, and the rooster got him awake and alerted him to the fact that there were there were the enemy was coming, and so they were able to defend themselves and fend off the attack. And so in honor of that, he commissioned a pitcher to be made out of ceramic and look good. They're all different colors they make. It looks really good. So what you do is you put water or whatever in there, and then the water comes right out of the. Isn't it cool? It's really cool with red wine, but could be a little disgusting to the view. So I thought I would just use water for you guys. So anyway, so that's just a little trivia for you. Okay. So that's the story of another culture. As you know, I've been thinking, as so many of you have, past months about racism and stories of people and just the things that trying to educate myself. And some of you have appreciated that, I know, and you've told me some stories from your experience. And one of them, Tom, came up to me. I saw him on the street the other day, and he said, I know you've been talking about racism. And, when I was in the Army, we had to go down to Louisiana. I think he said it was 1968, so over 50 years ago. And, but it was after, the Civil Rights and the Voting Acts, 64 and 65. But it's pretty far down south there. And longer story short, they all got off the bus because they were working to build some simulated Vietnamese villages. And their commander said, okay, ice cream for everybody. So everybody got off the bus. And, when he finally got in line, there were like 4 black soldiers in front of him, and then he stepped in. He was like 5th in line. And the proprietor of the store, the ice cream scooper, saw him come up and just looked past the 4 people in front of him and said, what would you like? And he said he kind of looked, and he looked at his fellow soldiers, and they gave him a look like, yeah, that's just the way it is here, go ahead, So they weren't expecting him to take a stand, and he didn't really know what to do. He's a young man, and he thought, boy, I should maybe just say this is wrong, but it seemed like it's just the way it was. So he said, well, I'll take a, vanilla swirl. And but it's haunted him, and I think that's good. I mean, so much of what I've been reading is you got to feel the discomfort, and we don't feel the discomfort, nothing will change. You might say, well, that was 50 years ago, that kind of thing doesn't happen anymore. I hope not, but I don't know. But are there ways that if you're white like I am, you have what they call white privilege? Are things easier for you because of your skin color than they'd be if you didn't have your skin color? One of the things I read early on was that a sign that racism exists in our culture is that probably no one who's white ever had a thought that they wish they weren't. And I would hope people of color would also not wish they weren't, but maybe because they see the advantages of being white in a white culture, they have had those thoughts. I don't know. But so white privilege. What is it? And we're doing a book study. We're going to start it this week called a book, White Fragility. It's evocative. I think we'll have some good discussion. One of the things that the author said is that white people in our culture just always belong. You always feel like you belong. You never feel like you don't belong, whether it's in school or in the wherever. And if there's ever a situation where maybe you're the racial minority being white, maybe that's uncomfortable or awkward for you, but the big picture, you never really feel like you don't belong in your city. And I think the implication was that's a common experience of ethnic minorities, people of color. That they have to learn the white culture in order to kind of succeed in it, because it's not as natural. Whereas, I think most white people don't feel like we have to learn another culture. It might be interesting if we're curious, but we don't have to in order to succeed economically or however. But gosh, we should want to. The story. So like the story of the pitcher. It's interesting. It's a little Italian history. And boy, my life, I don't know if I ever met a person of color till I was probably high school basketball camp when I went to Illinois. You know, I mean, super, super lily white Wausau, where I grew up. You know, we have now in Wausau a good number of people of Asian descent, but when I was a kid, you know, nothing, you know. So maybe that's part of the reason I'm so trying to educate myself. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage. I just grew up in a very homogenous racial environment, you know. And I want to see all God's people get along together, you know. One of the things we were reading was that desegregation, or like, you know, when they were like all white schools and all black schools and try to desegregate that, or just cafes or whatever, that a lot of people, it's just natural to say, oh, that's good for people of color to have the desegregation. But the other thought of, well, it's good for white people too, you know, wasn't really acknowledged, or you know, or maybe people thought it wasn't. It's just something we're doing, you know, for them. And you know, from a theological perspective, thinking of God and all God's children on earth, yeah, it's good for us. It's good for us to be. It's good for everybody of every color to be together, you know, as a family. So those are some just more thoughts on that topic. I hope they're kind of interesting to you, or to pique your interest a little bit. So along with Summerfest, back to Parish news. I mentioned the outdoor mass. So that'll be a mask, even though it's outdoors. We're going to require masks, and the distancing. I think someone's going to have a 6-foot pole. So if you get your hand wrapped with a 6-foot pole, it means you got to back up just a little bit. It is uncomfortable. It's just such an awkward time, isn't it? I saw some people the other day, and I just wanted with all my heart to give them a big, you know, bear hug, and I just like can't do it, you know. And then even a parishioner came up to me to talk, and I just felt like it was like really close. And you know, I hate that. Under normal circumstances, just kind of close, but under today's circumstances, really close. And I just had to say, can you just, because I didn't have anywhere to go. I was back against the wall. So I said, could you just that act of pushing someone away, you know, it's like not what we want to do. And yet I don't want to be causing anyone else to get sick, and I don't want to get sick from anyone else, because then I would cause other people. So you know the drill. It's not easy these days. Everything's so opposite of what we want to do and should do under normal circumstances, right? So it's a learning curve, how to be loving in the midst of days of distance. Hey, I want to do a shout out to Ed Valk. I don't even know the name of his barbershop. Is it Ed's? But Ed, I have the article sitting on my desk at the office. So front page, Leader Telegram. Ed's been a great member of St. James for years and years and years, with Ione, his wife, and you know, I don't know how many kids he has. I know Julie and Jody, his daughters. You know, I know, but anyway, it's such a lovely family, right? And he's done barbering. He's been like a barber here for like 60 years or something like that downtown. And the great news is that his grandson Brett has been to barber school and has taken over. So I imagine Ed will still cast a shadow in his old shop from time to time. But so good luck to Brett as you start out on this fine tradition. You know, he's super guy, and congratulations to Ed and now to Brett as the torch is passed. Okay, I'm gonna get a bike ride in here tonight yet, and then I'll come back and roast my eggplant. But I wanted to close with, I was trying to think what Taizé chant would be appropriate to the Martha and Mary story, where Jesus says, you know, one thing alone is necessary. Mary, who is just sitting here at my feet, she's chosen the better part. Put down your chopping knife and your mixing bowl, and stop mashing your garbanzo beans, and come out and just sit and be with me. And there's this chant called "In God Alone," so I think I'll just chant that about 3-4 times. And if you find it prayerful, stay tuned. If not, we'll chat with you another time. In God alone my soul can find rest and peace. In God my peace and joy. Only in God my soul can find its rest, find its rest and peace. In God alone my soul can find rest and peace. In God my peace and joy. Only in God my soul can find its rest, find its rest and peace. In God alone my soul can find rest and peace. In God my peace and joy. Only in God my soul can find its rest, find its rest and peace. In God alone my soul can find rest and peace. In God my peace and joy. Only in God my soul can find its rest, find its rest and peace. And may you know that deep peace which is God dwelling in you. And may you have the time and focus and the grace from God to savor that presence in your life often. God bless you.